Okay, today I'll be showing you all the different tools to work with the clay and then some different techniques for hand building. So first we'll start off with the tools here. We have slip, and if you remember from last year, slip is kind of clay plus water. And anytime you want to connect two pieces together, let's say if you had one piece and you had another piece, what we have to do is the slip and score. So remember, you are scratching one side of a piece, scratching the other side, and then I take the back of the wooden stylus and I blob it on the back, and then I can connect them together. So that's slip and score. You don't really have to do slip and score for everything. If your clay is really soft, you can just smash two pieces of clay together and it's gonna stick just as well. As long as you smooth around the sides, it should stick together pretty well. But if you have drier clay, like leather hard clay, you're gonna have to use slip and score in order for pieces to stick. Or let's say if you had a bigger piece and you wanted to kind of put a little eyeball on there, like this, there's not a lot sticking to it, then I'll kind of slip and score in that situation. So that's slip and score, that's slip. This brings us to this wooden stylus tool. So you can use this to dip, slip, and score. It's used for scoring on clay. So you can score like so. I like using it for mapping out things. So let's say I rolled out something and I wanted to cut out something. What I can do is I can actually draw on there what I want and then cut it out later. If you're planning on cutting out something, then the knife tool is the most useful. You can either use the knife tool freeform, so you can cut something freehand, or if you want, you can use a ruler as a straight edge if you want to make straight shapes. So that is the knife tool. Let's say you did roll out something flat and it's still in a wet stage, so it's really soft clay. The chances of it sticking to the table are very high. So let's say I can't really get this up, then I just actually bought these. This is a scraper tool. So the scraper tool is good for getting underneath the clay. And when you're using the scraper tool, don't like aggressively push into one side, kind of like you're maybe flipping a pancake. Go around it so you can get everything off of it, and then you can peel it off. And you gotta be careful too, because it will actually stick to the scraper. So this is just for emergency situations if you really can't get something up. So that's the scraper tool. Now we have the loop tools. So there's different shapes. Loop tool is made for carving, so it's got a little loop on it, kind of looks like a dentist tool. So if you want to carve in shapes or make designs like so, you can use the loop tool to actually carve in things, okay? And that waste there, you can use that for hair, you can use that for teeth, you could use that for nails, fur, all kinds of things. There's different shapes. So this one was circular shape, this was kind of a triangular shape. All right, so now we have the rubber sculpting tool. So this has got a rubber tip on it. It's good for little detail areas, so you can either use it to map out things, or you can use it, let's say you just attached an eyeball or something onto it and you wanted to smooth out around it, so you can use the rubber sculpting tool to get around there. Okay, so that's good for those type of situations. So those are all the tools. And now we're gonna get into basic forms. So number one is the coil. So in the coil, all you're doing is you're rolling out like a snake. And anytime you're rolling on a coil, you wanna apply even pressure over everything. Don't stay in one place because it's just gonna thin out one area. So notice how I'm moving my hands around. Once it gets long enough, then you can actually use both hands. Okay. and you can use this to make like a tail. You can use this to make like a spiral design. Let's say if you wanted to have this as an actual decoration on the side of something, you can make it into little segments and make it into actual hair. So really the ideas are limitless with this. There's another way actually where if you want to do called coil building. You can actually make a bottom. So let's say this is a bottom of a cup or something. Now look at that. Okay, that's stuck. In this situation, I'd re-roll it out. Maybe if it's sticking too much, you can actually put paper down, roll it directly onto paper so it's not sticking to the table. So one thing that's cool is you can actually coil build a pot, and by coil building a pot, you can roll out little coils. So I'm gonna roll out a coil here. And then you're actually gonna take the coil and actually start wrapping it around. And then when you get to the end here, pinch it off, and then you can start a new coil, kind of on that seam there. And you can just keep wrapping around. It's a really easy way to make a pot. In between, what you need to do is you need to actually attach the sides, and you can either do this with like a rubber scraping tool. So I'm actually scraping the sides together so they're sticking. You can do that with your finger and then smooth it out afterward, okay? And then you can just keep build up a coil pot. So that's the coil pot method. There's slab built method. So slab built is basically you're building something with slabs of clay, kind of like, remember last year in 6th grade, you actually started with slabs. So anytime you're using a rolling pin, push in the center more and then ease off the pressure on the sides so you don't have these thinner edges, okay? But you can actually slab build, and slab building requires that you use a ruler. So let's say I was making little squares. I can use my knife tool, cut that. So I had another section here, cut that. Let's do one more section. I'm gonna cut these into cubes. Okay, so now I got these little cubes here. You got the little squares that we'll make into a cube. So basically, you can actually put these sides together to make some square rectangular form, okay? And what in this situation, you can either push the sides together in, or you can slip and score. Notice how this is really floppy. So ideally, if you're doing a slab built piece, like a box or something, you'd wait till it's leather hard, so you'd let it sit out a little bit, and then the next day you'd put it together. So let's say you want to make a slab built something, you cut out all your pieces beforehand, let them sit out, and then the next day you'll put them together. So that's slab built. So a lot of you are actually putting together 2 pinch pots. Just a little refresher. So making a pinch pot, again, you roll that piece into a ball. If there's any little wrinkles, try to smooth them out, because otherwise, once you expand that pot, basically what happens is those little wrinkles in there, the little creases, start to become actually larger cracks that will make everything a little bit more difficult. So remember, put your thumb in the center, in the middle, stop to about this much clay is left on there, and then little tiny pinches around, pinch around, pinch around, pinch around, applying a lot of even force. The smaller the pinches and the more of them, the more even your pinch pot will be. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're making a pinch pot. So there we go. We have one side of it. So let's say we want to put these two together. First of all, you got to make sure they're the same diameter. So this one is still a little bit too small. So we're going to pinch this out a little bit more so it's the right diameter. Okay, so that's the first step. Okay, I did this maybe a little bit too much, so I'm going to expand this one a little bit more. All right, next, make sure the bottoms are flat so that they can receive each other. And then what you can do is line them up. If it's leather hard clay, then you're going to have to score and slip on both sides. And again, that's scratching both sides, putting the slip around it. Since this is wetter clay, we don't really need to do that, but we do need to interface, put these together. So try to line up the edges, and then I'm basically going to take my fingers and back and forth, almost like I'm sewing the two sides together. I'm going to push up and then push down, push up, push down, push up, push down. Again, if your clay is really dry and crackly, it's not going to do this, so you're going to have to slip and score it and then do something similar to this. So right now I'm just roughly trying to kind of stitch the pieces together. You'll notice it's kind of a weird, almost like a diamond shape. Maybe that's not what you want. You can always fix it later. So right now I just have the rough edges of it just to get it sort of into one shape. Okay, now if I want to start playing around with the actual shape of it, I can use the table to change it more of into like an egg shape. Once you get the desired shape that you want, then you can start smoothing out all the little cracks, get everything smooth on there, and then this can be some sort of body for something. Okay, so that's attaching two pieces together. Well, that's about it. The one thing I forgot to mention is the guard press. Remember, please put wet clay in here. I'll have wet clay available. Just stick a little plug in there and then push down, pinch at the top, and then you can attach it either by score and slip or you can smush it in.